Hi, everyone. Marianne Croce here from Small Biz Vantage for this week's Business Leadership Training in 15 minutes. And I do these lives every week on Tuesdays to give you a little bit of a taste of training when it comes to business leadership and coaching. And the reason why I do these things, there's a couple. One of them is because these are the discussions that I'm having when I'm coaching people, business owners and leaders. And it's also topics that I'm asked to speak on at events. So I keep it current, I keep it real, and we keep it to 15 minutes. The other reason I do this is because it's a way for you to kind of shift your vantage, if you will, the way that you look at your business, your perspective of how you're looking at it. Maybe it's a certain topic, and then you can take an action item away and apply it, during the next week. So if you find this valuable, I encourage you to share, pay it forward, because we know it's challenging to be business owners. So if we can help another business owner out, that's always a good thing. So let's get started. This week's topic is graduations and stories that hold us back. Now, that may sound kind of like a little bit of a funny title, but this came about because of two graduations. They were college graduations that I attended within the same week. Last week, I attended two. And I was really excited and happy to be attending these graduations because it was a way to really celebrate the graduates' accomplishments, right? And the work that actually lied ahead for both of them, right? When you think about it, learning is just the beginning. Graduation is just the beginning of learning, because it doesn't stop when you earn a degree or a certificate or any type of training that you've done. It doesn't stop. So a new type and valuable learning actually begins. The growth that comes from the doing, right? We learn from the mistakes and the failures that we'll experience. And this comes from really being able to put yourself out there. When we are putting ourselves out there and we're challenging ourselves, it really isn't easy, but I find that it's necessary to grow personally and professionally. And I also find in talking to many, many business owners and many people who are leaders that it brings really a lot of joy and fulfillment to them when they find that they're growing personally and professionally. I find myself speaking with, coaching a lot of people that consider themselves achievers and they want to, next level their life, their profession in some way. So they find the growing personally and professionally, they find a lot of joy and fulfillment. And I broke this down into three things that happen when we continue to grow. What happens is we're actually open to new opportunities. These may be opportunities that were right in front of us the whole time, but when we're growing, we actually see them. So when we see them and we realize them, we could actually take action on those opportunities that we may not have noticed before. The other thing that happens is we become more flexible and adaptable when we face challenges. And as business owners and leaders, there's always going to be challenges. There's going to be challenges all the time. I mean, that's like a constant. But we are actually learning to become flexible and adaptable, and we can face those challenges much better, right? We can make, and then the last part of that is we actually learn to make better decisions quicker because of the past lessons that we've learned and the things that we've experienced. We don't freeze, we don't panic, we don't blame other people. We go in and say, okay, let's assess, and we're able to make better decisions quicker than we normally would have because of the lessons and the things that we've learned and that skill that we've developed. So I was really excited for all of these reasons to be at these both of these graduations. So imagine the commencement speaker, right, doing a speech, and that speech going wrong, because that's exactly what happened. You see, it started out well. It was a gentleman who was speaking, and he really described, him growing up in poverty and how he overcame it. He discussed, different challenges he was talking about, and he really did overcome a lot. I give him a lot of credit. And he successfully earned actually 2 degrees. And he has a family, and now he has a prestigious career. He volunteers with at-risk children and teens. He does a lot of volunteer work as well. So I understand that he was coming from a place where he wanted to send a message to the graduates of hope. I get it, and that they can do it. But very quickly, it was apparent to me that the story that he was telling was really more focused on him and not the audience that he was speaking to, the graduates. And I wondered where he was going to be going with this speech. So he finally ended up speaking to the students about what their degree meant. And he never spoke of it being a starting point or that life will be full of more lessons. He didn't go down that road at all. What he actually told the graduates was to save their cap and gown. Save their cap and gown. And if their boss or their future boss ever asks them to do something such as sending a fax or an email, to remind that boss that they are a college graduate. My jaw dropped, and I looked at the people on either side of me, and they just kind of looked with their jaws dropped as well, because I couldn't believe what I just heard. And this really, really bothered me so much that I actually had to process it over the 2 days. We went and we were happy. We took photos with the graduates and everything was great. But I want to share with you this thought process and how I think it can really be harmful. This message can be harmful to people. So here's what I came up with. I came up with 2 things: a sense of entitlement and anger. So he had a unrealistic sense of entitlement that was associated with this degree or the education, right? That now that the work was done, he was focusing, now that they got the degree, that the work was done. He wasn't focusing on the fact that there was work involved in earning that degree and that they did the work. But the learning part of it was still there. You still had to learn. This sense of entitlement can really be harmful to the youth, because if they start believing that their learning is done, that could be a dangerous place, right? They're not going to be able to realize all the things that I was talking about opportunities and being flexible and adaptable and making better decisions because of that constant learning. So the way I look at it is, the degree means that you know how to learn, but you don't stop learning and growing throughout your life. So this sense of entitlement, I thought, was very, very negative thing. And then the second part was, this man had plenty of stories about his achievements. They were wonderful, but he didn't really include any of the stories that held him back during the journey. And I believe that even with accomplishments, because he didn't talk about the stories that held him back, the things that he believed or the things that he was being told when he was growing up, those stories are still haunting him. And I don't believe he let go of the anger or the frustration, if you will, that was associated with having those challenges starting out in life or maybe growing up in poverty. I mean, we all have a right to feel those emotions. And I don't think he really, dealt with those. I think there's a lot of frustration or anger that's still associated with it. And it came out in that speech because that's what he was actually telling these graduates to do, to act in a very frustrated or angry type of way, behavior. If their boss had asked them to do something which in his mind was demeaning or it was less than. And it was really, really frustrating. So the only way that you can come out of something or come out on the other side of a challenge or a frustrating situation, things that he grew up with in his life, the only way is by dealing with it and addressing it. That's when you come out on the other side of it and you can talk about it and you could say, here's what I went through, but here's what I learned from that. And it can be more of, this prepared me for all of the things that I did. So we all have these stories that we tell ourselves in some way, shape, or form about not being good enough, right? It could be money. It could be education. It could be, status of where we grew up, or it could be family careers or location, the small town, what we had, what we didn't have, what we experienced, what we were exposed to. There's so many different stories that we can tell ourselves. But when we think about it, like some of the examples of this could be like, no one in our family or no one in our town accomplished, the things that you want to accomplish. So what makes you think you can do it? Like those types of things. And the most powerful, stories can really affect our goals, our dreams, and it could affect all areas of our lives. So here's the thing. Over the years, I've met many, many amazing people, and some of them had degrees and went further on in their education, and some of them didn't. They had a lot of life experiences, and I've met giving and smart people from both camps, those that went on further with their education and those that did not. And they were both giving, they were both generous, and they were helpful, and they were achievers. And frankly, I've met some jerks as well from both camps. I'm sure we all have. But it wasn't the degree or the education I felt that made the person. It was what they took away from the degree, the education, or from their life experiences that really made them who they are. And I find that most people who are really fulfilled people and they get a lot of joy out of life are the people, the ones that pay it forward, the ones that, give back and are willing to share those stories that held them back because they were able to come out on the other side and learn from them and take away, and they're willing to share. So I really feel that this commencement speech was not a good speech. And I think that unfortunately, this next generation, many of them are getting bad advice from a number of sources. And if they really believe that their education, their degree means that they're entitled, then they're going to start worrying more about what others think, about what others are doing or what others are not doing, instead of focusing on growing themselves. So, we all know that life isn't fair, but the people that can be flexible and adaptable and focus on growing themselves and helping others, those are the people that will be both accomplished and fulfilled. So what I want to ask you is, what's your biggest takeaway so far from your education or the life lessons that, have served you? Think about it and, put them in the comments below. If you're someone who is watching this on the replay and you find this valuable, please share it with another business owner or leader that we can pay it forward to, and we could learn from each other and help them as well. So that's this week's Business Leadership in 15 Minutes, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Have an enjoyable day.